Season 7, Episode 24, number 289 of the Decoded Podcast.
Or the We Know Too Much.
We Know Too Much
We Know
Podcast.
Too Much podcast.
What was the other one? The thing you just... Oh, This Is Our Life? This is Our Life?
This is our life.
Podcast.
Yeah.
The Two Canoes Podcast.
Two Canoes.
Two Canoes. Good morning.
Two TWO. Can,
Yeah.
CAN, and then YOUS. Two
I like
can
that.
use. Two
Is that-
can use.
Is that going to be part of the art today?
No, I already started the art.
Oh, you did?
It's terrible, yeah.
Oh.
It's terrible today. But I'm gonna see it through because I know too much. I'm gonna keep branding that. I love this idea. And if we get any people in the room, I am curious about the secrets that we keep that protect.
I don't know where you're going with this, but I kind of like it.
That protect. I don't want to say protect education. That seems way too. Well, I don't know. Maybe that is what we're talking about.
Well,
But
are we? Oh, sorry.
No, jump in. Go. I'm still formulating my thinking.
So what you're just saying now reminds me, I have a visual. And the visual is that we are standing in front of the curtain. And behind the curtain is the wizard, or many wizards, who are doing their thing, making things look nice for the audience. But we know, it's like we're protecting somebody from coming and ripping that curtain open. Because we know things. We know things, and we don't walk around telling people these things for a number of different reasons. That's what I feel when you say something like that.
Yeah, it's for me. It's excuse me. As for me, it's just very much a layered kind of existence. And I'm going to go backwards to go forwards. 3 or 4 years ago, a principal that I dig. They're really a cool thinker. They not only they're a cool thinker, they sort of action things in interesting ways. They embody this idea that as a leader they shouldn't have the final say, which is a funny and funky kind of little bit of democratic leadership that I'm not quite sure how that works, but it fascinates me to think about what that would mean. Is if you are the leader, but you vote last, like you actually don't get the final word, because I think that even in the most broad-minded 2024 leadership things, there's this idea of, like, I guess we could say leading from beside, leading from behind, but we also have the buck stops here kind of like mindset, right? But they embodied this. They embodied this idea, like they vote last. And I don't know if that's just a mind game. Could be just a mind game. But what if it was a thing? So this person said to me after I had an interview for a position that I had expressed to them that I was interested in. I was like, I want to do this. And I didn't get it. I didn't get the position. I was not successful, the successful candidate. And they said, you don't have to be in formal leadership to be a leader. And that's actually, they said that's an unfortunate mindset to have to chase, but also to be squashed under. And they said that sometimes in education, this is what we say we want leaders in all zones, but they don't have the power, the influence that naturally comes with some of these positions, or they don't have the support or resources that naturally come along with these positions. But I've taken it to heart, because as soon as that was said to me, I started to think about and just kind of do leadership that works for my life. That's I guess really the best way to say it. Finding the kind of like the mortar spots between the larger set pieces and saying, I can lead in that small space. And you know what? I can do it for 3 weeks. Check my calendar. I can do that for 3 weeks. And I'm going to do a really good job at it. It reminds me a little bit, remember 3 or 4 years ago when the department head went on a leave? And I posted up some of my reflections on, what do you do if you're a leader for 9 days? And I posted some stuff up on my blog just about some of the discussions. So I decided my 9 days were going to be spent asking questions, which you can do anywhere. And you could ask questions in any type of space in the work that you do. But because someone anointed me as department head, because I was successful in getting that position for the 9 days, automatically access came with it. So I had access to meetings, I had access to resources, I had keys to get behind the curtain, so to speak, as you started with. And there were these ideas that had been sort of bouncing around in my head about spec ed and the way spec ed works. And I thought, you know what? Let's dig in for 9 days. And at the time, I didn't actually know it would be 9 days. When I said yes, it was just I was filling a leave, and there was no clear indication, at least for the first 5 days, that it was only going to be 9 days. It was kind of unclear, but I kind of nudged my post just to say, okay, I got 9 days, and it was wonderful. It was actually really cool to lead in that small space and to just step in and do the work in that small space. And I found I really, really enjoyed it on the short run. Much like on the on-ramp I was telling you about last night, helping out at a local community theater. They just needed someone to jump in and do concession. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I did it. And I kind of learned in the moment. I leaned on some of my own experience from hospitality. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I'm okay with talking to random strangers. I don't have an aversion to that. So anything else is just mathematics and money. Like, here's your change, sir. Right? So yeah, it was this leading in small spaces. I don't know if our system knows how to help people notice that. And I don't know, well, because if I make it hyper personal, I would say, well, this is how I opportunize things. I notice a thing. I do know that for me, just in me, Clough, the way I'm built, I notice constantly. Like I'm always hyper aware about checking things out. It's one of the gifts of my ADHD. It really is. The other gift of my ADHD is the fact that I can pivot out of emotional states quickly. And I've only come to realize that lately. And, the distractibility factor when I want to focus on something can be a bit of a pisser because I have to really work hard to maintain focus. But I don't hang on to negative states. The same thing that I can't focus on positive states for too long, right? It takes a lot of work. I don't sit in negative states for too long. So, and when it comes to leadership, I can sort of move quickly through some of these small failures or, non-successes and say, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. And I really like that because when the principal said that to me, you don't have to have a formal leadership. Right away, my brain was like, you're right. You're right. If I am craving to grow and develop like that, why not do the 1 week? Why not do the 1 month? Why not do the things that I know work well with both my focus, my diverse toolbox, and my life, and still feel like I'm together? And I will say, based on this, I think in order what I've come to accept, and I've noticed this because of the art that I produce, so the acting and the poetry stuff and some of the drawings that I do, there's a very strong element of privilege that allows me to do that art and still keep my family, have a car, have a house. I haven't stepped fully into this idea that I'm going to try and grow my art to support my whole life. I'm actively keeping a full-time job and doing art on top of that. Because my leadership interests are not based on accolades, congratulations, and pay increase, I feel like I have a lot of mobility. And all of a sudden you start to notice opportunity. You start to notice how you can demonstrate different thinking and innovation when you're not bound to the supermodel. I'm not bound to that sort of idea of, I'm not supermodel like fashion. I just mean the supermodel of education. So this outer shell that we've come to accept, like this is how education is. This is here's the power structures. Here's the thing that we call the upper table. Here's the supervisory roles. I think, I know too much or we know too much podcast for me would be entirely, would be not entirely, but a big part of it would be the red pill, blue pill moment that you can actually wake up and start to sort of notice these spaces, and you can engage and challenge and ask questions of those spaces. You said it well in a polo in the last couple of days, saying something about asking the direct questions of individuals that are right there in front of you. I've said it in a different way, but I think it's something similar, is that I will engage and ask questions of people that if anyone were listening, they may say, well, you can't ask that question. When in fact, that's the supermodel. You can't ask that question. But when you really dig into it, it's the person that I'm asking shouldn't answer that question. It's on the person that's being asked, not the questioner. But more people, I think, if more educators, any job, felt that they were able to actually ask those questions in a way that's not hostile. Like you're actually doing it in a generative fashion. Do it in whatever the way you want. I really don't give a shit. But I just say, if you're looking to stay in the conversation and still maintain a relationship and still be able to go back to that person more than one time for information, so you're not losing any of your bridges, then I've really come to enjoy that space of leadership. I think it has a very kind of union-y, mentory, coachy kind of feel. But I feel like that's where my strength lies. And I think those are the positions I will continue to seek out. And the irony is these positions aren't part of the supermodel. These are the positions that I'm saying, you know what? I think there needs to be a position here. I'm going to put a little sort of like loop in there so I can put my rope on it, stay nice and secure on that spot.
As per usual, you dropped so much there. I've got so much to say, and I didn't write any of it down because sometimes I don't roll that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go in a different direction and hope to come back to this.
Do it.
I want to say good morning to all our listeners. Rochelle's jumped in. Good morning,
Good morning,
Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Gary's jumped in. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Gary.
Rochelle says exactly, Chris. I had a position, yet only had a certain amount of power to make decisions, and I had to wait for someone else to make the decisions. Hey, I get it. Right up your alley, Rochelle, in many different points of my career. So this is going to bring me back, Chris, to some of the things you said. Some of my favorite people to work for and work with, I think, because they've not been a you work for me type. They've been yeah, I'm the principal. There are certain things that land on me, but that doesn't mean we can't work together. It doesn't mean you can't lead in the areas that you're really awesome at that I could learn from. And whenever people do that, I feel that humility, and I think I can do this. If this person is opening up and saying, hey, I recognize you've got some really cool things to bring to the table, and I'd like you to flex that here. What can I do to support you? I'm like, I like this. And this is the difference I've noticed over what 23 years in this world of education. There are some leaders that are more than happy to actually lead and say to other people, I don't know everything. And they don't always say it like that because leaders get scared when they think, I have to be humble. What does that look like? Well, do it your way. There is no way to do it. Do it your way. Some of them say, you have a skill set that I don't have and don't have time to learn, maybe no interest in learning, but I see the value in what you bring. Can you flex some of that here? Can you do these things or offer this or consult here or there? Because I don't know, but I see the power and I see the passion. So can you bring some of that? It's like, yeah, I can. Then there are other principals who don't operate like that. They don't know how to say to you, I see that you have a skill set. They may be it's like Rochelle said, they don't empower you. They know your role and the power, so to speak, with in that role. But then there's always that you got to bump up. You always got to go up and ask, go up and ask, go up and ask. I've seen these two styles. There's many more, but let's talk about these two extremes. I don't like the one that's I'm in charge and everything goes by me, especially if they do it that way. Because then it's like, because I know something about my personality, I usually mirror the people I'm with. So
Mm.
if you're operating that way, if you're going to be black and white that way, chances are I become black and white that way too. And then chances are that leads to conflict because then you're looking at me like, hey, I'm the boss. I'm telling you what to do. And I'm like, you are the boss. You've made your point known. You're black and white. Now I am too. And if that brings conflict, then that brings conflict. If you back off, I'll probably back off. And I'm not stepping up in areas where I don't belong. Like I'm not telling them how to run the school, but I'm also telling them you're not supposed to get me to do 8,000 more minutes of duty. And I don't care that you think we're friends or you're my boss. You're going to be black and white about the rules. I'm going to be black and white about the rules. I don't see where the problem lies in that. The problem lies in that person is struggling more than just leadership. There's an ego piece. Like I will direct you, you will comply. Like that's not how the world works. You will direct me because you have certain authority to do so. But there's a world I live in too. I don't just do what I'm told. I will think and I will act. And if you're getting me to do stuff or you want things to happen because you have a certain vision, but you're not, I was wicked. Um,
That's just a video that I had in the background turned on for some reason. Sorry.
rock and roll, that's what you listen to all day long.
I do, yeah. I'm
So
metal.
anyway, um, I reflect that. This is just it seems to be who I am. I'm not saying I can't change. I'm just saying if you look at my past, when you are a little bit more open with me, I guess at the end of the day, I like to be treated like a human. And when you treat me like a human, someone who has feelings, someone who can be happy and scared and excited, I respond well to you. I know not everybody does. I've worked with people who have said to me, "Oh my God, I can't do this anymore." And I'm like, "What's the problem?" And they're like, "I cannot work for that person." I'm like, "What's
Hmm.
wrong? What are they doing to you?" And they're like, "They're too open. It's too open. I need I need parameters. I need this." And it's funny because I always say to them, I'm like, I got to tell you, I understand what you're saying, but my experience has been, and it's very limited, right? My experience is tiny compared to the big world. My experience has been the ones that give you those tight parameters. There's a lot of negatives for me that comes with those people.
Hmm.
I like to know what's expected as well, but usually when they operate that way, there's no negotiation for anything. And I get also that the opposite is when people are too open. Some people need more structure. I like structure without the bullshit of the ego. And I have worked for people that can operate like that for me. I've worked for them. They do exist for me. So now that I'm looking for a new job, I'm very I'm my eyes are open and I'm looking for leadership. Even though I know how to flex leadership, I'm looking for a type of leadership now. So when the postings come out, I am interested in certain position, but I'm also interested in who's running that place and how do they run it. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm very interested in that. But I want to sidestep now and talk about one more thing, and then we can move on if you like. This business of leadership, this business of this is my third year in re-engagement. And in my first year and in my second year, along the way, I have said to people, I've said to parents, I've said to teachers, I've said to administrators, I've said to kids, when you wake up one day and you realize something, you don't know how to do it, or you want to make a change, you know where to find me. You know where to find me. If the cell phone is gone, the school board took it back, you can always email me. So if you can't text me, send me an email. Or email somebody, email a teacher in the system that you know,
Hmm.
or talk to a teacher in the school and say, "How do I find Mr. C?" They'll find me. I got one of those, and so part of my leadership is I give you this gift. When you wake up one day and you decide you want change or whatever, you know where to find me. I got that call last week. I got a call saying, "I need your help. You said you would help me." And I'm like, "Cha-ching. I told you I would, and now I'm going to." How it falls into the realm of what I do doesn't really matter. I did say this was a principal, and now I'm interacting with the parent. And I said to the parent a couple of there's some non-negotiables, like I'm not reaching out to your kid. Like I'm not reaching out to your kid. So you reached out to me, and we're talking face to face. I'm here to help because you asked for it. So let me see what I can do. Let me lead you the way I said I would. But I can't reach out to your kid. I'm not going to call their
Hmm.
cell phone and say, "Hey, it's Mr. C. I'm here to help." No, they need to reach out to me. So get them to email me or send me a text. Let's establish this the proper way. Um, and you will be involved the entire time because I want to ensure it's like you're the mother, that he's the kid. We have to work together, right? There are certain things I can lead you to the water, but you're going to have to give him the cup to drink from it. I'm not the parent. It's not my job. And the mom's like, "I'm all over this." And I'm like, "Okay." And the last thing she said to me yesterday was, because she called me out of the blue yesterday. And she said, "I'm so happy somebody's here to help." And I told her, "That's not fair. That's not fair. I know the people you've interacted with over the last year and a half. None of those people, none of them are here to sabotage you or your son. They're all here to help, but they all have a role to play." And I said, if you get anything from me at this point in the game, I need you to realize we all have a role. So right now, my role, I'm the wide open person, right? Like I'm the wide open person. I have mobility, I have flexibility. They don't have that. They're locked in certain places. And I said to her, "It's kind of good that you're talking to me now because this is it. Like come June, I'm done. I'm getting locked back in somewhere."
Hmm.
And then if you call me or email me next year, I have a tight parameter. I cannot leave that parameter anymore. Just like when I was moved back to a classroom in March, I was getting texts from parents saying, "Can you help? I need help." I'm like, "I can listen and I can respond. I cannot arrive at your door. I'm literally inside the four walls of a school. I can't go anywhere. This is my new reality." So I said to the mom, "Don't do that. Don't write everybody off. It's not fair. Yeah, you probably ran into some bozos along the way. That's going to happen to everybody. But it's not fair to say nobody's tried to help you. Everybody I've interacted with has tried to help you. You've either not accepted it, like for whatever reason, or you weren't ready, or the kid wasn't ready. I'm good. I see that. I can see that now because of the job I've been doing. But something happened. A switch was flipped. You remembered how to get in touch with me. Here we are. And I promised you I'd help you. So here's how I'm going to help you. That's friggin' leadership. And when I talked to you last night on the polo that I'm going to be contacting people to say to them, I need your leadership now. You told me you would help me. I'm more kind of in a sicko way. I'm looking forward to their answers to my direct questions. When
Mm-hmm.
I say, you told me you would help me, I need your help now. Will you help me? I can't wait to hear the answer. Some people are going to come right out and say, yes, I will help you. Some people will say, well, what do you need help with? Then others will say, I'm not sure I can assist. Just give it to me then. Tell me what it is you're willing to do. Because to me, when I tell you I will help you, I'm screwed. I'm stuck because I'm 99.9% of the time, I believe I'm going to stay true to my word. Not everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
And that for whatever reasons, not everybody does that. But I'm calling in favors now. I
You know
want
what
your
you
help.
know what I'm noticing too, though, even in that, I get these weird kind of moments of accountability where you say not everybody does that. Not everybody can do that. It's and I know I'm picking apart the words, but
It's
you
fine.
know, one of the things I've seen is that this idea of, you know, people's character becomes what's the word? It there's a if going into leadership means you have to have your character destabilized in a way that you can't be you. I used to blame the human. It's like, man, you just like you became a leader and you changed, yo. I'm starting one of the things I've kind of accepted.
You've changed. That's why I posted Rochelle's comment, because what she says refers to you see people shift. But anyway, keep going, and then we can talk
I was
about.
just gonna say, I think I've tried to be a little bit more. So two things have happened as I've sort of like noticed this more and more. A couple things have happened. One, I always have to ask myself, did I actually really know this person as well as I'm holding them account to? I think that's a good question for me to ask because my perception could have been off, right? I could have built or projected something into this that person actually wasn't that person. So I'm making them more singular than they were. The second part to this, and it's as I see individuals go into this like the supermodel, like they get higher and higher into the levels, is there is a really strong current there, like the gravity of having to be a person, like it's like the apron of a black hole for some people. Like it bends time, it bends light, it changes people. um and and for me, I don't know, I think more compassion lens is useful. Yeah, more compassion lens is useful. Here's the last part. I keep telling myself, just make the decision as to whether or not that's for you and move on. Like make that decision. Everything that you see, don't in this moment when you're noticing think to yourself you want to change that person or you want to change the system. Decide whether, because even to sort of like engage with someone whose leadership style you disagree with, or it doesn't vibe with you, or you feel it might be oppressive or even offensive to you, I think often it's good to take some time away and think about some of the other factors that have led them to be that type of leader. And was I wrong in my assumptions in the first place?
I love that. I love that because it leaves something open, and I'm being selfish and I'm kind of sucking it into me.
Well, it also puts the ownership of that type of thinking directly on me. I'm not going to change that leader in front of me. I can't have an expectation that I'm going to change that leader in front of me. I can only make decisions about, I guess, my own leadership, and then also choose if I see it. Again, we know too much.
I
Myself, I had aspirations to sort of move up. I've taken the courses, so I did the technical stuff to move up, and then I made choices not to. You can go back to episode 172 of this, or jump over and see our short-lived podcast, Walk Me Through Your Process, right? Where we talked about leadership and some of the challenges there. In many ways, that was also We Know Too Much, because we had some individuals that we had guests on there, that were laying down some hard truth that you've experienced this, that definitely were not shined up for the cameras. The one guest that we had that talked very clearly about not even knowing they needed to take a mental stress leave. They were basically told, you're not going back to work. And they're like, I'm good. I can walk this off. They're like, no. And then when they finally embraced where they were at, they were off, or they were gone for several months, weren't they? If I remember the story, several months. And when they came back, they realized that it wasn't just the job. There was also stuff about them. There was something about them that also they needed to work on. So they came back with the proper medication. They came back with the proper health and fitness routine. They came back with a therapist, because part of it is they really liked the job. Like, they did like doing the work. But there was a toxicity to it, like an underlying kind of factor of toxicity that they weren't paying attention to. So, yeah, man.
Like you, I have all the technical pieces as well, right? And have always been interested in going down that road. But now what I see and what I hear, it doesn't fit with how it all started. It doesn't fit. And in one, out of one side of their mouth, they being the system, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's important for you to come to us balanced and understanding family and understanding this. And then out of the other side of their mouth, once you're in, it's like, okay, this is it. Go do it 24/7. And it's like, what? That's not what you sold me. It's like snake oil. Come buy my product. This is what it's going to do for you. Then you buy the product and you're like, it's not doing anything you said it was going to do. And like, you've hit me over the head with this thing, and now I'm in. I'm part of it, but there's no way out. And I'm like, yeah, that's not cool for me. It's one of my friends recently told me about someone who got into the VP pool. And they're like, yeah, this person got in the VP pool. Do you know them? I said, yeah, I worked with them. And they're like, and I'm like, what? When I worked with them, they were brand new. So here I was like, what, like 12, 14 years in. This person's brand new. And now I'm 23 years in, and they're, I don't know how many years, but now they're in the pool. They're going to be a leader in the system if they choose to say yes to whatever posting. My response to this person was, I hope things go well for them, because I know that they have a relatively young family, and unless they find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, they can kiss their family goodbye for at least a couple of years while they're vice principals, and that's their world. This is what I've seen. I know my view is skewed, but I've seen it several times over and over again. Once you get pulled into
It is the model. It is the model. I am now officially, I gotta call it. We know too much. We know too much. I'm gonna call it. When you move out of the teacher leader role. Teacher leader. So school-based teacher leader. When you move out of that, so and I'm starting to say you have to be prepared. I'm going to say it specifically about job expectations. When you move outside of a BELD model, you officially give surprising parts of your life to the system. And, it could be more of your personal time. It could be time where the rest of your family, you go asynchronous with your family. It could be weekend time. You exist in this kind of precariousness that if you're single and privileged, you're okay, because more okay, because you can kind of navigate and kind of flow, and the system says you have to do this, so you do this. It kind of works. I think if you have dependents, then I say to my own kids when they make decisions, sometimes I'm like, what's your plan here? I'm like, what do you mean? Okay, well, you left that plate there on the counter. What's your plan for that? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I know that plate won't go into the dishwasher on its own. So when you put it there, what was your plan? And sometimes they'll kind of cue in with, they're like, okay, what are we even talking about? They're like, I was going to come back later. I said, okay, so that was your actual plan. You were going to come back later and put it in there. Yep. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about that plan? Why? Well, it's right in the middle of the counter where other people make meals. So let's just take that into account next time, that if you are going to come back later, I don't know, maybe take it with you. They look at me like, what? I'm like, take the plate with you. So it's a reminder that you need to put it in the dishwasher. And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm like, well, but then you're not leaving it for someone else to ask about. So what's your plan here? If we use that exact same question for individuals that decide to run schools, what's your plan here? And let's say those individuals have families. So what's your plan here? By you taking on this extra time, it's a very good question. By you taking on this extra time, have you had the discussions with your family about some of that cost, like where that extra time is going to come from? And for me, it just came down to I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to sort of start to negotiate that way, as I learned too much. And it's a real factor. It is not, no person have I talked to directly or observed has ever been happy with giving up that extra time. Maybe they've been neutral. If they're neutral, they tend to say, well, it's the job. Not mine. So, I think where I come back to these micro dosing in the leadership, I'm really digging it. Because even recently you had someone, a couple of people say to you, that's, you're in the right place. If you're there, you're in the right place. The kids, you're good. You're going to be good for the kids. And you start to realize the no too you much model is like, I'm kind of done with that. I'm done with taking any sort of pat on the back that I'm in the right place, just there, like that I as an agent of the board have to be in that place just for the kids, just because the kids need me there. Because really what we're saying is because the system needs you there. And I'm not disputing either one of our toolkits, right? Our toolkits are valuable, are both yours and my skill sets. Imagine you and I on a tag team. Oh my God, we should write a book. But one of the facts here is I don't need someone who's in positional power to tell me that I'm doing the right thing. Like I don't take any credit out of that, especially when what I'm actually hearing is, and be on one hand, you're good for the kids. On the other hand, and by the way, I'm just going to put you there.
I just felt a friggin' tinge of trauma when you said the
Yeah.
system needs you there.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to hear that again.
Mm-hmm.
Not from you, but the system needs you here.
Mm-hmm.
This business of forgetting that people are human and that there's, it's talk is cheap, man. When someone says the system needs you here and you're thrown into a situation that you have no interest in and turns your world upside down. Now, is it a great story for leadership and perseverance? Yeah. I'm not looking to write those great stories. I'm not looking to make a movie. I'm looking for the reality of a situation and that not everybody's a robot. Not everybody can go stone cold calculation and just go do something and not feel anything. I'm not interested in not feeling who I am and what I'm about.
Well
Maybe
said. Well,
I'm
that's
not interested.
well said. And isn't that one amazing to say out loud? Amazing to say out loud. It's that difference between saying I can't do this anymore and I won't do this anymore. I will not do this anymore. Because if we say we can't, then we're offloading our agency to an external force. And
Well,
we're not actually clearly identifying that we won't keep doing it. We're just going to keep canting it for a long time. So I love that you said that out loud.
and at the end of the day, I did. It did happen. I did survive and I did do it. But I'm not walking around with that badge of honor on my shirt. I'm like, do you know the pain that went with that? Do you know the all the like human parts of me that were singed because of that? Do you know the things that happened to the people around me who love me, what happened to them? I don't care anymore about what the system needs. I don't want to hear it anymore. You can say it and I'll just plug my ears and sing. I don't care what the system needs because the system doesn't care what I need. Now, if you're a human and you talk to me one on one, that's a different story because then all of a sudden, the minute you say what the system needs, I'm not listening anymore because
Exactly.
the system has no care for the human part of a person. It doesn't
My
care.
God, when we talk about aspirational leadership, if we dare to talk about aspirational leadership, it's got to include this moment right here. Hearing people that, and I think it works best with people that are in positional power, saying things like, yeah, this isn't happening again. And they actually make it not happen again. No, you're not staying today to take care of that. And you don't stay there and take care of that. We're not going to respond via email. And you actually don't respond via email. So we test drive these aspirational sort of statements. And like you just said 5 minutes ago on tape, I'm not interested anymore in ignoring how my body feels in this or how my mind feels in this. I'm gonna humanize myself. I'm gonna remind you that I'm doing that, and I'm also going to be a human in this. I'm taking a break from this combo. Peace. I'm back in 5 minutes, or I'm not. Or as you just said, as soon as you start telling me my obligation that you're the trumpeter for, like, you're the herald of the system, I'm out. Peace.
So one of the cool things that's come from this is now I know because you learn quickly who doesn't want to hear from you anymore. You learn quickly who, you know, they say, "Can I help you?" but they don't want to help you with what you need help with. So their words, "I want to
Yeah.
help you," they
Call me if you
don't
need me. We've done this before. Call
they
me if
don't
you need
yeah.
me. Here's my number.
And I was steadfast in around in if you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you the truth and you don't want to hear the truth. And one of the funniest things, funny now, is that I was telling you about all the negatives while I was doing what you asked me to do, but not pretending like I'm doing it so everything's fine. I was doing it, but nothing was fine. I was constantly in a state of out of body experience, which is really friggin' weird for someone who's taking care of 30 kids for full days for God knows how long. That is friggin' tough, bro, because we need to be on. We need to be on. When you're off and you're in that type of role, it's dangerous on a number of different levels for you and for the kids and for the staff around you. It's not safe. So you want to ask me how I'm doing? And I joked with you that a couple of people over time would say, "How are you doing today, Roland?" I'd say that's the wrong question because we only have 5 minutes before the bell rings, and I'm going to take up all 5 of your minutes, and I will follow you wherever you go for those 5 minutes to continue to tell you to answer your question because it's going to take more than 5 minutes. Don't ask. Don't ask in this. If you want to say happy Tuesday, it's good to see you. Awesome. I will wish you the same. Don't ask me how I'm doing because I'm going to answer you and you don't want to hear my answer. You don't want to hear my answer. Some people actually wanted to hear my answer, and I am grateful to them. I'm grateful for them from now until the end of my time. I am grateful, and I have some really, being in a shitty situation, I have some fond memories. I do, not all of it was horrible in that I have some great, I have some, the learning I did from the administrators in that building and some of the teachers and some of the kids will last forever. So, I leave a shitty situation, but there were some gifts there, and I was not completely blind to that because I was kind of looking for that. I was kind of looking for where's the light because I always talk to people about finding the light, So I was looking for it, even though I was just walking in the dark. I was like, it's got to pop up somewhere. And it did. It did pop up with people who did want to hear me, with people who were appreciative that I was there, and know that there's a skill set that comes with me that I was able to flex, even though I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me. So yeah, that's part of my narrative now. Do I want to do it again? No. Right? Like, do I want to be thrown in? I will be at some point, because that's life. They turn off the lights and they're like, find your way. It's gonna happen, but it's not like I'm sitting here starving for it. Like, I can't wait until I'm in a shitty moment again so I can learn something good. No, I'm not doing that. Some good did come from this, and I was open to that. And then recently I saw a video about, well, it came from one of the documentaries you and I are watching, about the one physician who talks about um, suffering is a key to growth. You want to grow, you want to be an amazing person, and soft and ready to serve and lead, you have to suffer. So I say to anybody who wants to be a leader, I don't tell them go look for suffering. I just say, you know,
Oh,
in
or
your darkest moment, don't forget to look for the light. Even and don't but don't do not deny who you are. Do not
Mhm,
deny how you feel, and that you'd rather not be in that situation. That's human.
mhm,
And you know what? I Even if you're a superhuman, there are not many of those people. So don't think that you have to be a superhuman that searches for the suffering and loves it. There might be a part of you that seeks discomfort because you know what can come from it. But then there's that's different than being told by people who are responsible for your livelihood, you're going to go suffer now. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. Don't forget that I'm a human. They lean on the system because systems don't feel, and you can't fight a system. So they lean on the system, even though they're the humans telling you where to go and what to do. It's the system needs it. Oh
mhm,
God, the system's going to break because you're forgetting that we are humans.
mhm. Well, you had me thinking of like this, like collective pain or collective abrasion and collective imposition, basically what the collective cost is of of not turning to like sort of moving from the moment of like where you're facing a challenge, which might be a person, you're facing a moment that's um kind of feeling like it's ripping you up a little bit, and you realize that what you need to do is turn 180 degrees and look at what's motivating you, like what's actually putting you in that position to have hostility towards the moment, the other person. And often you see like it's the tools, that's training, it's the system around you that has put you in that position and kind of closed the door and left you there like a couple hungry dogs to fight out for that moment. um and then somebody, something, a moment will come back and open the door and say, okay, who's still standing, who's still standing here. And that type of survivalist leadership is rampant. It's rampant. And I feel for the I do still have a tremendous amount of compassion for individuals that have stepped into formal leadership, and they're filling the role, but they're not fulfilled. They don't seem fulfilled. So we know too much. We know too much, and no one's talking to us. So maybe
And
maybe that's the gift of knowing too much. That's probably a big reason why you and I do this podcast. And it is out in the open. Anyone can listen. Anyone could sort of take one of our episodes and say, hey, you know what? I was listening to these two educators on the weekend talk about leadership. Anybody could out us to a degree. But we've been doing this now for 7 years, 289 episodes. I think us knowing too much means that we come here, we hash it out, we talk with some cool people that jump into studio as well. And then we go back out as our own agents and kind of navigate this system, or more of our own agents. I mean, this is some of the privilege of being in the system for, coming up on a quarter century. It's not a boldness, I find. I think it's just more, I now have the words. One of the gifts of education is that we're so professionally developed that we do get words. We get a lot of words. We get a lot of different ways to see a lot of different things. I think the cost sometimes is that we're not in that calculus. So we see the kids around us. We see the families around us. We see the community needs around us. We see the social, ethical opportunities around us. And not always use those tools to make ourselves better. I can remember saying to Tina Zita, cool, creative individual. We were in a book club together. Minimalism, The Minimalist, Greg McKeown. And the conversation popped up. This was like one of those COVID book groups. Talked about like, are we withdrawing as much as we're investing in education? And if we do it, are we burdened by guilt? Are we burdened and confused? Do we somehow say we are not worthy to withdraw what we need in order to acknowledge that we're actually better people? Are we using the tools that we learn to actually become better people? Or is it just work? As in we kind of like, no, there's my teacher self, there's my personal self. I'm done in a lot of ways, because what that means is I can accept certain things about the teacher self that my personal self would never accept. So I'm like, okay, let's put those two things in a room, and I'm going to get them to shake hands. And I'm going to say, no, if I'm going to move into a leadership position, which is not necessarily beneficial to my home life, how does it not get in the way of my home life? How is it not stealing? How is it not stealing? I just had the name. You ever heard La Roba Galline? La Roba Galline? Back
No.
in the day when I was a chef, one of the phrases when I was in training, when I was working for an Italian family, they thought I had given away their fettuccine recipe, and they called me that. Which the translation, I'm not saying the words right, but I think the translation is chicken robber. You're a chicken robber, which basically, you come in the night and you're taking a thing and you're just hoping, and you basically hope you can keep doing that until you get caught. I hadn't given away their fettuccine. It was their own family that took it from them. But the Irish Polish guy got nailed for that. But making sure we don't do that to ourselves, that we're not stealing from ourselves.
We've had some great comments here that I'm going to share. So
do it. I'm going to have a sip.
Good idea. Rochelle said it's interesting that you refer to leadership as business, because with some of our leaders, their focus is more business than people. Yes. I think we've kind of talked a little bit about that along the way. Rochelle says she also has the courses, but has made the choice right now to not proceed higher because of having a young family, and the best advice 2 different administrators have given me. And I, having worked with Rochelle for a bit, and just know kind of what I know of Rochelle and the way she operates with people. Rochelle, you'd be great in that position, 100% in my opinion, if you remained the way you are.
Are you saying that are you saying that as a whole person, or are you now saying that as an agent of the system?
I'm saying that.
And how are you managing to make that comment without, because dude, you're now doing to Rochelle what the system has done to you and I on different occasions.
You jumped in before you let me say the other part.
God, sorry.
So I love it though, because you're calling me out, but I wasn't finished. So what I want to say in whole is that what I know of Rochelle as a human and the way she operates with her colleagues, if that all remained the same, and the way she treats her family and the love for her family, if that all remained the same, she would be wicked in the role of dealing with humans. But that's based on my perception of what a good administrator, what a good leader, how they operate. But this is the second half of what I wanted to say. But I believe her family would suffer greatly. So I'm not doing what others have done to you and I. I am acknowledging that the price that she would pay, in my opinion, unless she could find the secret sauce, and if she can,
come
I
back
want
on this pod and
I
tell
want her
us.
to hand some more to I want some of that so that I can do it too. Um, I believe her family would suffer greatly. Her children would pay for it. I'm not sure about her partner, but I believe her family would pay for it because she is a giving person. She would give it to the staff and students, but I don't know what would be left for her family because she'd be at work all the time because she believes in the humans. Look at the administrators that just deal with the paper. They never leave work. So imagine dealing with the humans and the paper. There's nothing left, in my opinion. Not a lot. Most people don't agree with me, which is fine. But this is my perspective. This is our podcast, so we could say what we want. She is the perfect individual for the job, but I believe because she's the perfect person for the job, her family would pay. So there you go. So in the end, at the end of the day, my I land on take care of your family, not the job. So yeah, I love that you jumped in the middle. You're like, "What the F are you doing, Chids?" I'm like, "Whoa, you didn't let me finish. I'm not doing what everybody else has done to me. I'm adding the reality onto the end. I'm
Mm.
acknowledging, which I can acknowledge that knowing her and how she is, if it remained that way, I would work for someone like that in a heartbeat because I know she cares about humans. And I know I could go to her and say, "Hey, this is whack. Like, why are we doing it like this? Talk me through your process because I'm a staff member and I respect you, so I want to know." And then I would hear her out, she would hear me out, and at the end of the day, I know there's a line. She's the one in charge and I'm not, and I get that. Doesn't mean I can't speak. So, that's what I say about that. Now, Gary, I'm going to skip over something you said. Gary said he also has the courses. So Gary's got the technical. He might be ready to rock, he might not. Gary said earlier, sweeping statements like that are meaningless. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. People should be describing the gifts and reasonings why they
I
consider you
think
a
you're
good
good for
fit.
the job. That's sort
Okay.
of like you're. Yeah, I feel like that might be what he's going
Okay.
back to.
And empower you to decide your interest in the position. Yes. Okay. And like, I know I'm kind of judging and I'm kind of not. Like, if you decide that that's what you want to do, go for it. Because I'm always looking for, Rochelle acknowledged that Gary made a great point. I'm always looking for people who jump in and who find a way to do it without losing their family. And I know every family's different. Every
Mhm.
family's different. Like, my wife has said to me several times, she's like, "Well, you'll be an administrator soon, don't worry." And I look at her, I'm like, "What are you saying? Do you recognize that if I become an administrator, like, I'm not going to be home before you and cook dinner, probably. I'm gonna come home to you exhausted and you saying to me, "I'm too tired, I didn't cook dinner." So everybody had to fend for themselves. And then I'm kind of looking around like, "Oh, so am I cooking dinner for the family? Or is everybody looking at me whack because I'm like 3 hours later than they would want me home?" Like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, "You know what would happen if I became an administrator. I would never be around. And I want to be around. I want to be able to pick up my son from high school some days. I want to be able to take my youngest to his hockey if it's on the earlier side or even on the later side of an evening. I want to be able to come home and cook dinner and say to my family, 'I cooked dinner today. Nobody has to worry about this today.' I want to be able to do those things. And I'm told by certain administrators, 'You can kiss all that goodbye.' And then I'm like, yeah, I'm middle-aged. I'm not interested in working with a principal who tells me you're the vice principal. That means you never leave. Because right from that moment, there's going to be conflict. Because I'm going to be like, why are you talking to me like that? Number one. Number two, how do you know that I won't do the job when I'm not here? Like, you're making all kinds of assumptions about me. And now I'm making assumptions about you. If you feel I need to be here 24/7 and at your beck and call, what kind of leadership is this? Like, and I've heard stories about that. And I look at some of the principals now who are vice principals for principals like that. And I'm like, why did you do that? They're like, well, you have to make sacrifices. Oh, to be treated like garbage? That's one of the sacrifices? Yeah. Reason number 22, no, it's not for me. Especially as middle-aged. Because now I kind of know me. And I know I'm still growing, but I know me and I know what I'll tolerate and what I won't. And even if I tolerate, I'm going to say some things that you're probably not going to like. But you have to be mature enough and advanced enough to understand that I can say things that conflict, but it may not interfere with my actions of the job. Just like recently, when I was in a classroom, I'll tell you all day and all night, I disliked every part of that process, but I still went and did the job. So at the end of the day, I served your system, but you broke me. And now I'm thinking differently about everything I do within the system. I don't want to do anything for the system. I want to do things for the parents that I work with and for the kids that I work with. Maybe the school I work for. Maybe. It's not for the system. If it benefits the system, okay. And even as we talk, I'm allowed to, everything I'm saying, I'm allowed to say. I've not said anything against my employer. I'm talking about systems.
I benefit the system as a byproduct of me being happy in my job. Hands down. That's how I benefit the system. Everything else flows from me being satisfied, me having that sense, that general positive sense of being satisfied. First thing they made me think about. Second thing, I'm tired of individuals using family first as an excuse after the fact. And I'm commenting on Rochelle's comment here before about the family first. If we stay in that non-negotiable criteria, it changes how we move into leadership. I encounter it so many times as a response to how we don't or can't lead according to our aptitudes and our potential. As in someone says to, of course, put family first always. And that's a tagline to maybe somebody saying, I don't feel well today, or my child is sick, or I can't attend that meeting because my kids have a graduation. And they're said, of course, family first. But it's a bit of a scapegoat. It's a scapegoat conversation because by design, the system is going to constantly take and enforce opportunities where we have to excuse ourselves for family first. And it's not designed to benefit family first. So that's a really critical turning point for me is now, and you said it, and I disagree with this, nobody around me has to do anything. They don't have to operate a different way. They don't have to understand me. They don't have to do these things. I've let go of that because I want to put the energy into how I'm going to navigate. And I've kind of I'm now comfortable with just, let's just see where this falls afterwards. Like I'm not going to worry so much about, I'm going to trust that I've been trained well enough to operate well in this system. I'll wait for someone to tell me that I'm not. And then I'll stay in that conversation to figure out where I made a mistake. But I'm going to trust my instinct now. I'm going to trust my quarter century. And I'm going to trust that the decisions that I make are soaked and embedded with family first. And family first could just be one of the tenets. I could say Clough first as well. I mean, anybody could put anything in that, right? For me, yeah, family, my peace, my health first. And this circles me back to where we started this convo about these micro doses of leadership that allow me to satisfy. It's the same thing. I can't sit and watch 7 hours. I can't sit and watch 3 hours of TV. I can't. I just can't. I have to get up. I have to do something. So why the hell would I sit in a 3-hour meeting for something? Like it doesn't match up, right? So if I think about, what might be some of the demands of formalized leadership positions, if the leadership isn't an outcome or a symptom of me being family first, then I can't go there. I can't go there, and it won't matter the courses because the courses give you the technical element, but us knowing too much is because we've talked to a lot of people. We're absorbent. We seek diverse learning opportunities. We've talked. My God, you and I have talked and talked and talked for 8-9 years about the different things that we see in education. We met in a conversation, not even ours, somebody else's conversation. So I'm going to trust that all that conversation, that the things we're talking about right now and where we're both at in our career right now is entirely centered in our family needs and our needs. And it's pretty wonderful to be able to be there. Does it change what it has? I will say this, it has changed fundamentally how I see opportunity. Right away, even the other day, I was looking through the job listings. Instead of the jobs, I looked at the schools that they're at. Nope, too far. There's a professional training opportunity that I was forwarded. We have a OSSTF PA day coming up on May 6th or something like that. I looked at where it's being offered. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting content. I'm like, nope, 25-minute drive, which I'm not going to get my gas back. And someone could say, well, you could carpool. I'm not going to pay somebody else. If I don't have to go, I can do work. I can do great work here. I'll figure something out. Again, that 25 minutes is from my school. Coming back, it'll be something else altogether. So, yeah, I'm going to hold myself accountable for that family first. I never want it. People have said that to me in emails and stuff, and I see it, I just cringe. Yeah, put family first. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Rochelle, not throwing shade on your comment, but it lit me up. It's in that, Rochelle, before you met me, met us, I put together something called a fossil list. And the fossil list was what was it? Full of shit, or fossil fuel, full of shit, sayings, idioms, and language. And I put together, I'll share it with you if you want, Rochelle, or I'll get the link to Chids and maybe Chids can get to you. It's on a Padlet. And we just put on there the stuff that we're just done with hearing. And one of the ones that, he and I have landed on a couple of times, and Gary, sorry, I'm not pushing you out, but is also like stuff like call me if you need me. And there's a bunch on that list that are just like, we're done. Thought leader probably made that list as well. I'm just done. Family first, I'm done, because it's jargonized and weaponized. Because what that means is as soon as you've satisfied this little blip, you better get back to work. That's dehumanizing. That's dehumanizing. And anyone that actually can tell you to put family first is so wrong in what they think is their position of power. Like, really? You think you get to tell me that? And or take it away from me?
Also, I want to choose when family comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I want to choose
Absolutely.
when there have been times. So let me give you a great example. This is one of my favorite moments of an administrator being a human. Okay, so school year starts. My youngest plays hockey, rep hockey at the time, and the team has this thing that's organized for a certain day, a couple of months down the road. Okay, and so I committed obviously to that, to being with my son for that. So then we're in a meeting, a staff meeting, and I find out that on that night we've designated that night parent teacher interview night. So I go to the administrator. I'm like, I got a real problem here, and I'm gonna like flex my trust and tell you my problem, hoping that we could come to a reasonable solution. So the principal's like, "What's up?" So I tell the principal, "Hey, I'm supposed to be with my son at a function that night, and now you're telling me that there's a school thing. I, you know, I can't. I'm not going to be at school. So how do we navigate this together? There are some things I could easily do to not be here that day, which means I'm not going to be here that night. Too bad for everybody involved, but I'm flexing. I'm showing you my cards. What can we do?" So the principal says to me, "I get it. I understand. Is there no way, there's no like there's no room to maneuver with timing?" I said, "Oh, you know what? I can do that. So I need to be with my son at this time to make it work. So I can be here for the first hour." The response is, "Awesome. That's good that you can be here for the first hour. How will you take care of what you can't do here for the other hour and a half or 2 hours. I'm like, I can get ahead of the game. I can put it out to parents who can talk to me on the phone, who can come to the school before that day. And I said to him, I will not, like, it's not going to be one of those, um, well, Mr. C, I can't talk to you on the phone. I can't come before that. And then me say to them, well, too bad. After that day, I'm not talking to you. No, it was like completely, I said to him, it'll be completely flexible and open. Whoever wants to talk to me now, like we worked it so that he said to me, okay, good. It sounds like you know what your professional responsibility is. Make it happen and enjoy your time with your son. I was like, this is friggin' awesome. Not because I got my way, because I could have gotten my way without talking to them about it at all, and it would have been
Hmm.
a gong show. But I'm like, no, you know what? You've shown me that you're open to trust and this type of thing. So I'm open to saying to you, how can we be creative? They were more than happy to be accommodating, and they made it clear, are you going to be able to get your job done? And I'm like, yeah, not an issue. And I'll start tomorrow. Like I will get on this ASAP. And if you want to be power hungry, I can feed you the results. They're like, no, I don't need that. I just don't want parents calling me saying that they didn't have an opportunity to talk to you because you wouldn't provide them one. I'm like,
Hmm.
I will provide them every opportunity. Every opportunity. I will flex on the times that when I don't need to be here, I'll be here to make that happen so that I can be with my son. So family first meant that there were going to be days where family didn't come first because I said I would do something that meant I had to put in extra time. You get
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
for that moment with my son, there were a couple of moments where family didn't come first, where I would come home and I would say to my family from 7 to 8 p.m., do not bother me. I am not available. I will be doing interviews over the telephone is part of my job. I need to get that done. So yeah, family didn't come for that hour first because there was some back and forth. But I made that decision, right? I decide when family doesn't come first. There have been moments in my career where I've said to my family, I must be at work at this time. I will remain after school for the evening on this day, right? I choose. And then we have the battle at home whether, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Because I want to do that. This is my gift to the school. This is me giving back,
Hmm.
okay? Because I feel it's part of what I want to do. So that means you guys are gonna not have me for that night because of this, this, and this. My choice, not somebody telling me you must, you must, you must. Don't tell me I must. Treat me like a human.
Okay.
And so if so, I'll tell you right now, there are administrators I would just know, well, too bad. I guess I won't be there. I won't be there that night. And I'm not going to you first about it. And we'll deal with it. We'll be reactive then. If that's how you operate, that's okay with me. I'm gonna do what I need to do. Here's another good one. The opposite of me going and saying, here are my cards. What are you gonna do with me? I had to have surgery, believe it or not, years ago. I didn't tell that principal until the day before I left. So I walked into their office. I said, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. HR knows. I'm sure they'll inform you. And HR got the notice, like, kind of not, 3 weeks early to tell the principal. But I was like, yeah, I'll be gone. Where are you going? I'm having a surgery. Really? Yeah. And they're just looking at me like, and I'm looking at them like, I didn't even have to tell you. I could have just not shown up, and HR's going to let you know. I'm sure they have somebody coming in or whatever. And they're just looking at me, and I'm like, well, you helped build this. By the way you treat me and the way you act, you helped build this. I don't even know why I'm giving you this opportunity kind of the day before I go. All my plans will be on my desk, and I should be back in a couple of weeks. See you then. They built it that way.
Hmm.
Did I play a role in that? Of course I played a role, but they built it that way. I don't have to tell you shit. I'll tell you what I want, when I want, how I want, and everybody above you knows or will know. I'm out of here. Don't you dare call me either or send me an email. I'll just forward it to the union. They can deal with it because you got a job to do and doesn't include calling me at home. So I'm told. Is that a proud moment for me? Nah. But it is a human moment. It's part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I am flawed. Bro, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I can shine or I can be as dull as you want me to be. It depends on how you treat me.
It's true.
I love some of my friends who are like no matter what, they're gonna struggle and they're gonna suffer and they're gonna give, give, give. That's on you, man. You want to do that? That is totally your choice. Do that. Unfortunately, I'm past that point. I've been burned too many times operating that way. You operate a certain way with certain expectations, but nobody knows what your expectations are. And even when you verbalize them, the other person's like, yeah, that's cool that you have those expectations. None of that's happening. So when do people learn to just roll with who they are? And how can they sleep well at night or not sleep well at night? I've had lots of nights of not good sleep recently. All I wanted was to go back to sleep. Like when you get there, it's like, oh shit, how do I get back like my sanity? How do I find my center again? At the end of the day, I think that what I would love, and I have no control over this, is at the end of the day, it would be great if more people said that I helped them in the end. Then, you know, I would want more people saying that than more people saying he never helped. He
Mm-hmm.
said he would, and he just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even when I
Delivered. I'm the same
yeah,
way. I just want people to say he delivered.
even when I was in the classroom recently, I was like, man, I was wide open. I'm like, what do you guys need? And not just what do you need. You're showing me that you need this, this, and this. And it was not done in a spiteful way from my position. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to serve you as best as I can. This is what you're showing me, so this is what I think you need. Unless you tell me otherwise, but nobody's saying anything. So I gotta act. I gotta do something. And then at the end it was like, wow, he gave us like he was very flexible, very compassionate. Well, that's because I've just spent 3 years helping kids that want to be off the radar for the rest of their life. Now, I hope that this translates into the next role I'm in. I can bring some of that with me and actually keep it at the forefront, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be fighting some wicked forces, right? Like report cards and IEPs and like I'm going to be fighting some strong forces. Like, what do you mean this child doesn't do this during the day? How can they be here all day and not? And then I'm thinking, well, they're here because I'm coming from a different place. Like, when a kid is gone and you're in a classroom, man, there's not a lot you can do to bring them back. That's scary for me now. That Jimmy
Well,
doesn't
and
come to school and I can't really. I mean, I
and you
will.
got the receipts. This isn't abstract.
No,
It's
this isn't
actually it's
abstract.
not abstract. This is you're not saying like the doppelganger of you who's never left their classroom would say the exact same thing. But you're the universe 252 version of you of the multiverse says it with no, I've gone out there, I've done the work, and I still can't bring them back.
Like I've even thought, okay, I think I've told you this. So what do I do? Do I step out at lunch if I can and go to their house and check in? Do I do it
Yeah.
after school on my way home? Well, how do I do this? How do I make this work? Or
Mm-hmm.
how do I demonstrate that it's more than just being in the room at school? How do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I had that experience recently with a kid that wasn't coming, and I'm like, what do I do? I sent some emails and made some phone calls, and the parent was like, "Holy cow, you want him there that bad?" And I'm like, "Well, why doesn't he come?" It was a pure, I'm like, holy shit, this is re-engagement happening right in front of me. The kid's disengaging and I'm here. So what do I do? So when the kid did come back, I was very clear about how happy I was that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did he do much academically? No. But I tried not to focus on that. I tried to focus on, hey, I'm noticing that when you have some time on your own to do this work, you don't do it. So, like, what's going on? What's keeping you from it? Is it boring? Are you just lazy? Like, and I would talk like that because what am I hiding for? Why are you lazy? Do you not understand? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? Like, what's going on? And then they would say, I don't really get it. So I don't get it, and nobody's going to help me. I'm like, well, for the next 10 minutes, you got me. I'm here to help. So let's do something. And lo and behold, eventually he allowed me to spend those 10 minutes working on something. And I'm like, thank you. This was a real gift. And he's looking at me like I'm nuts. He's like, are you being sarcastic? I'm no. This was a real gift. These 10 minutes working with you and actually doing school kind of made me feel like back in the day when I went to school. Like and I'm like, okay, now you can get back on your Minecraft and I'm going to ask you about it. So make sure you can connect it to some of the math we're doing. That'd be epic if you could do that. And he's just looking at me like, this guy's nuts. I'm like, I'm not nuts. I want to get through this day. I want you to feel welcome here so that you don't stay home, because if you're at home, you're getting nothing. You got to be here to get something. And you got to be here to like socialize and learn how to be a human and give your mom a break, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom was like, thank you so much for helping him. Yeah, no problem. That's what my job is. But so she got a break. He got to experience school in a nicer kind of way. It worked. Doesn't always work, and it won't always work. But you're right. I got the receipts, man. I've been doing the work. I've been out there. I've been out there. Bro, I think we've come to our to the end of episode 24, 289.
Thanks to the peeps that stuck it out with us. Whoever's
Yeah,
still
for
loyal.
real. What's your artwork today? This is it's very Van Gogh-ish. Can I say that? That's what it
Dude,
reminds me of.
you say your words, dude, whatever you're thinking.
It reminds me of Van Gogh's art.
I gotta try and think out like why is my, like, I like the old timey nostalgia that's going on here with my camera, but for anyone who's watching this live on YouTube and not just listening, I don't know why my camera's black and white today. This wasn't a stylistic choice. Sorry, Easter burst the bubble. It just I'm on my laptop, my school laptop, and it's decided to be black and white. So I'll do a reset. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Gary loved this. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. It's always great to have you on board.
Thanks, Gary and Rochelle, for making comments and jumping in and out of the convo. And for anybody else who's here, thanks for checking it out. We usually do this on Saturday mornings.
We do. We usually have been doing it for the last 7 years.
Yeah, 289 episodes.
289 episodes. Yep.
Nobody's counting, though.
No one's counting. Just funny. Had parent-teacher night the other night, and one of the families came in, and they said, "We Googled you." I'm like, "This is going to be good." This is what my brain is like. This could be good, because I'm a rabbit hole. Like, if you decide to Google me, there's stuff, right? And it's all stuff that I say to the kids. I say, put the good stuff out there. Don't put bad stuff online anytime. Put the good stuff out there. So they started off by, they're like, you write poetry? I'm like, I do. And they said, we listened to your spoken word piece in September. I was like, cool. And I'm just waiting. Like, I'll just glad you found it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they're complimentary. And they said, and then we found your chasing squirrels stuff. I'm like, yep. And then Decoded. I'm like, yep. And it's just like, there's just this moment there. Like, there's no question yet. They're just noticing. I'm like, thanks for noticing. And they're sitting there. Both of them are just like, I think what that moment, how I read that moment, is they're realizing that there's more to me than just teaching their kid well. They're like, this guy does other stuff. it was a humanizing moment. They saw me in my sort of expansive form, right? The things that I've sort of put out there and is allowed to be seen. But it was kind of a cool moment. Like, we Googled you, like, Google away.
Those are cool moments when they see that who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're more than just the teacher of their
Mm-hmm.
child, you know? And you do have good stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff. And it's out there for people to consume
Absolutely.
if they
and
wish.
and that's intentional, right? We both have operated that way. We both. So it's using the space as a creative space. So
It's good modeling for others in put out your good stuff, right?
mhm.
Um, and in a way, I sent you something recently on Instagram about do you because nobody's sharing their failures
Yeah,
on. Yeah, I mean, I'm open. I talk about my failures here. I talk about the not so good stuff here. There's a lot of not good stuff, but there's a lot
hmm,
of good stuff too.
yeah,
Um, Rochelle says, "Bon weekend. Thanks for the
yep,
discussion. I appreciate the franglaise."
yep. Bon weekend, Rochelle. Bon
Rochelle,
weekend.
thanks. Okay, well, this was season 7, episode 24, number 289 of Decoded Podcast. Thanks for hanging with us, and Clough, we'll be chatting soon.
Absolutely.
Have a great day. Peace.
Peace, dude.